twice that if you support the death penalty, that you are A, a murderer, and B, an accessory to murder. By Merriam-Webster's dictionary online, the definition of a murderer is to commit a crime of unlawfully killing a person, and if you support the death penalty, you definitely do not commit the crime of unlawfully killing a person. And the accessory to a murderer is a person charged with aiding or abetting to the crime, in a sense, and by supporting the death penalty, you are not aiding in any way of helping to kill the person by your personal support. And then also, during the affirmative side's arguments, it came into more of a moral issue, and with this debate, they were not debating on morality, we're debating justice. And then also there's the Bible. We have all respect for the Bible, but the Bible was brought up a lot with the affirmative side, but in the Constitution or in the amendments, there is a division between church and state. It was brought up that prisoners were treated too well, and they said that there could be changes to the justice system on how they're locked up or where they could be held. And if you look at history, prisons who did treat prisoners not well, they were shut down because of the unfair treatment. And at this time, there's no movement to change how they're treated at all. It's too much money to put someone to death, but if in today's prices of money, it is more money to lock someone for life than to put someone to death. And there are more people in general population prisons who are not on death row, and the sum of that adds up greater than the death row and putting people to death. And it said that that could change, but once again, there's nothing proposed to change the cost of that, nothing to change what it costs to lock someone up, nothing in that sense. But people fear nothing more than death. They say you might fear like living in a box the rest of your life, but you get to stay alive. You get 3 meals a day. That's how it is in today's prison society. It's not like you get to sit in a box and you don't get to sit in a box, not eat, or have to suffer. No, you sit in a box, 3 meals a day. You get to go outside. In some cases, you can get to go outside. That's not just punishment for killing someone, raping someone, or any of those heinous crimes. It gives closure to the families. If someone in your family was killed, it is a very good feeling to have closure. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to feel closure from someone getting to live with the crime they did, getting 3 hot meals a day, sometimes getting TV, or sometimes being in general population prisons. And there's some cases they could go to a quote-unquote golf or country club prison, which is where it is a privately owned prison, and it is nothing more than just kind of living in a fenced-in area. It was said that taking the life of an innocent person was said in the beginning of the affirmative side's opening statements, but the people on death row, 9 times out of 10, are not innocent. There have been mistakes. There have been people exonerated from being put on death row, not right, but they have been exonerated. There are mistakes. There are mistakes with everything, but on the negative side, we do believe that death penalty is a fair and just punishment.
Right on time. All right, let's have affirmative go up.
Mrs. Spicer, do we get to have a closing statement?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Because I kind of modify as I go on because the slicer's wet.
I understand. We, the affirmative side, would like to propose other ways of detaining these criminals other than the death penalty. We suggest that there are no luxuries. These particular criminals who would have been sentenced to death row have no chance of ever going to these country club prisons. They will be sentenced to hard time for the rest of their life. And it will not be any more expensive than, say, the death row, because this is an extremely costly process. And once you're in and convicted of these crimes, there is no way to ever get parole, because unless there is new evidence brought up and that sets you free. Because like I said, there is no way to set a person free from the grave, but it's very possible to set someone free from jail. I would also like to reinstate that there is 1 out of every 10 people who have been set free from the death row. And we believe that it is not worth killing one innocent person to kill those 9 people. I would also like to make it known that that most people are on death row approximately 5 to 6 years, and sometimes even longer. And that makes the cost of sitting on death row extremely expensive. And this is taxpayer money that even people who don't support the death penalty have to pay this outrageous cost in keeping the death row prisoners happy. The particular death row prisoners get 3 hot meals, they get to sleep in a nice bed, they have decent facilities. We propose that there's none of this. No hot meals. Yes, they will be fed. Yes, they will have water to shower, but the water will not be hot, and it will be very painful, which I believe will give the families who have been affected by these particular criminals satisfaction in knowing that they do not have the quality of life that other prisoners have. The other side, the negative side stated that it is constitutionally right to murder these people. However, in 1972, it was stated that it is illegal to murder someone in the Constitution. Again, I would like to make it known that this has been reinstated and it is again constitutionally right, but for 4 years it was illegal. And you can never get an innocent life back. Another fact that the negative side stated was that an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, directly quoting the Bible. However, they must keep in mind that the Bible should be taken with the context that it was in. The Old Testament was an extremely long time ago, and the New Testament, more relevant, should be more appropriate for this debate, saying that we should love our neighbor as ourselves. And there's also a current modern day quote that says, "An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind." The affirmative side now stands for closing.
Because of the essence of time, I'm going to give this group a minute to come back up. Anything you want to say on the negative team? We have time on the clock.
Nice, have a minute. To finish out, after the whole debate today, a big point of the affirmative side was all these changes that they want to make to the prisons, or how these changes can happen to these death row inmates. But at this time, there is no such changes even are being proposed. It's all just in the future. This could happen, but we're talking about today. And in today's society, the most just punishment we have is putting someone to death. It is more expensive to put someone to life, or to keep someone alive that long. We're not debating if there's more changes. They talk about these changes that are going to happen. We are debating that there is other options, but we're not debating on these. We're not banking on these future changes to happen. We're debating if there's other ways, yes, but we're not banking on these future opportunities that may happen.
All right. Affirmative.
All right. There are other alternatives other than murdering someone for committing a crime. There are no changes, but we have to start somewhere. And we have plenty of other options that we've stated today that we can start. The opposing side said that it costs more to keep someone living, which in fact it does not cost more. Per year, it is more expensive to kill someone than to keep them alive. We suggest that those who have been convicted of heinous crimes, such as a serial killer, be put into a containment center with no hot water, food, hot meals, and little to no freedom. As the statement said that we are debating, there are other alternatives to the death penalty, and these alternatives should be explored. And as we both agree, there are other alternatives, even though currently they're not being explored, but there are other alternatives. The death penalty is not the only option for a murderer, and the alternatives force the prisoner to rethink his or her wrongdoing, and they must face the consequences of their actions, not given the easy way out with death.
Let's give both sides a hand. Now that we've come to the end, let's talk about and hear from the audience, those who were not up, what you thought based on the facts. And we can hear from the negative and the affirmative, and you can just go at it. We have time on the clock. Go ahead, Sydney.
You just said per year it costs more, but in all their life it costs more for their whole lifespan to stay in jail than to be put to death.
But in some states, in the past 16 years, only 2 people have been put to death because all those people have been stayed on death row for that many years. 16 years, paying $1.2 million every year
Like you
is
said,
way
per
more.
year.
But people stay on death row for 20
But
years at a
people stay
time.
alive more than that.
Not
In
when
jail.
When they're on death row, 1.2 million is more than the
How
How
$90,000.
many people are in general population?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah,
How many people kill people?
Yeah.
Not as many.
I'm sorry, but how much are the drugs that it takes to
We
kill
got
that
time on the
person?
clock, both sides in this
It
chat.
Okay.
takes,
Pretty
those
basic
drugs
drugs,
are pretty
that's-
expensive, and if
Just
it
to
goes
try the-
wrong,
the case
if
alone,
it goes
that's
wrong,
take
if they don't
orders.
go under right away, you watch that person
But
suffer.
you have to use
You
your
said
common
suffer,
sense.
but
They
then again,
suffer.
Brittany
If they
said
watch
you could
someone
put
else
them
suffer.
in solitary confinement with no food and
No,
No, they're fed.
Okay, then they can have a cold foot-long Subway sandwich.
Still,
Like-
it's
Did we
still
say
where
that?
do you
Is
draw
there
that
something-
line?
it's
It's suddenly
still
odious.
food.
Okay, but you gotta use your
Yeah.
common first grade math 2 plus 2. Like
here's
how
what
many
I-
people in general population to how many people on death row? It's your common first
Okay,
grade
well, we're
math.
gonna
It's
have to
gonna
pay
cost
for the
more.
general population no matter what.
Yeah, you're gonna
So
pay
why don't
more.
we put the people who have been convicted of severe heinous crimes in a prison that costs even less
There's no
than
way
the
to
general
more
population?
security.
You have to have more security for the
You
maximum.
use
No, you don't cost more.
Use the
It has to be a maximum security.
Use the maximum security prison in Iowa. It's been put off so many times because they have to put more and more money into it because it's maximum security. They have to find guards that can work in maximum security facility, and it's going to cost more. It's been in the news because it's going to cost more, and it's maximum security. That's the kind of prison they would be in, and it's going to cost more.
Okay, so you said, Andy, you said that murder and rape and all those things are morally wrong. So you want to respond to a morally wrong action with another morally wrong action? To me, that doesn't make sense, and you can't really use that eye for an eye.
But you,
We're not
but
debating
you
the Lord.
said, and
Solitary
you guys said
confinement.
that you put
How
innocent
can you
lives
guys bring up the Bible
to death.
and
You guys,
specifically
why are
say
they
in the
innocent
Bible?
if they murder or rape someone? How are they
And it goes
innocent?
both ways.
No, you
have
have
to
not.
go
If
with
the
the
murderer
murder,
killed the
no,
person,
no,
they can go with their
Don't
parents.
Okay, I just have something to say about the morality. The Vatican city-state from 1929 until 1969 had a penal code that included the death penalty for anyone that even tried to assassinate the Pope. So our Vatican has done it also. So they think that with the why would the Old Testament still be in the Bible if we couldn't listen to it?
The Catholic Church even made statements. They're not opposed to the death penalty. They're okay with it in certain cases.
No, that's not true.
That's
That's not
true at
true.
all. I'm
The
sorry.
Catholic
That's not,
They have-
please look it up and show me.
The Catholic Church
That's not
said they're
true.
against the death penalty.
The Catholic Church says in some cases, the death penalty may be just.
Boom!
Amen.
That's
Some
the statement.
cases
In
may
some
be
cases,
just.
It's not
they have
some
not
cases.
defined those
That is
cases.
still
That is
cases.
the statement.
Just
They
because
have
it's
not
not
defined the cases. You are not part of the
She's
Vatican.
talking about specific rape cases. She said rape. Rape is not necessarily.
That's
rape is
portable.
not a death
It
penalty.
could be.
It could be, but it's not
Rarely,
necessarily.
very,
But it could be.
very
Yeah.
rarely.
Yeah.
It's not
It
specified.
could
for
be,
rape.
but it's
Just
not
most rapists get off
necessarily.
scot-free. They don't get in trouble for anything.
Well, that's because the women don't.
Most people
allow
don't.
it.
It's it's sad. It's true.
That's bringing some confidence.
I'm surprised many of you didn't bring up the ACLU and also the prisoners' Bill of Rights, because prisoners do have Bill of Rights, and when one side was talking about cold showers, limiting food,
You can't do
you
that.
know, we do have Bill of Rights for the
Which is clearly
prisoners.
See, you can't do. That's why outreach out there.
Oh, so we're not arguing morally wrong, but that's clearly morally wrong.
But their
So
side
it's
didn't
clear-
bring it up.
Oh, so
That
torture
doesn't make
is
any
more
sense.
It's
morally
not.
wrong.
It's
You stated cold
Would you rather take a cold shower every day than die?
in locked and
Yeah,
solid
yeah,
confinement,
exactly.
not eating
Okay,
shit.
You're getting
Do you want me